Hi ladies, come on in. Welcome to Donna's Sewing Circle. You must be a beginner quilter. We're on lesson 3. Are you ready to join us? If you are a beginner quilter and you stumbled onto lesson 3 first, go back and start at lesson 1. You'll be glad you did. Today we are working on Jacob's ladder. You can get this free pattern on my website. Link is in the description and in the first comment. Go download it for free. I print it off at the library. It needs to be a landscape and you print on both sides. If you have problems with that kind of stuff, take it to the library. They will happily do it. It only costs like 50 cents at my library to do full color both sides. So we're working on Jacob's ladder. We're on day 3. Day 1, we cut your fabric. Day 2, we piece chain the first blocks. We did this right here. Today, we're going to join those blocks and make these. So that's today's lesson. So come join us. Like I said, if this is your first time here, please go back to lesson 1 or you'll be all confused. So those of you who are on lesson 3, let's get started. Today we're going to, like I said, we're going to do this step. We're going to join these blocks together. We're going to nest them together, piece them together, and then we're going to sew them. And I'm going to show you how to do that step by step. I still do. I teach sewing and quilting classes here in my hometown, and they come from Indiana and Kentucky. I've had them come up to an hour and a half away to come to my classes. So they suggested that maybe I needed to put them online to help others. And I've done that. And I've seen people all the way from Idaho and Texas, Alabama, Georgia. Welcome. Come on in. There's always room for one more. I'd love to hear where you're coming from. And if you're doing this lesson with me, I would love to see the color choices you've made. I love to see the progress you're making. I love to hear your stories. Please comment below. I do respond to every comment. I love to hear from you. So let's get on with this lesson and get these pieces nested together and sewn together. Okay, so these are what we're working with today. We've already ironed them. We did that last class. So this class, I'm actually going to do it right here. So I'm going to put these aside. You have a blue and a pink, or a blue and a pink. And you have these two. These two pieces need to be diagonal from each other. So and when you pin them together, they need to be right sides together. And you want your seam to come together. See this seam right here? Where the pink and this one comes together and where this one and the blue comes together? You want them to be side by side, right on top of each other. So I put them on top of each other. See how they look? And then we pin it. Now I make a cross. I go this way, and when I pin it far enough away from here so when I sew, I'm not having to remove pins as I sew. Okay, so I put one here. We're going to put another one here. This will keep the fabric from sliding. So when you get done, now this one you're going to have to remove when you're ready to sew because it will be in your way. Now, we line up these two edges. A lot of people want to skip the pinning step. They think, what's that for? I can hold it together. If you pin it, that's one less thing you have to worry about when you're sewing. All you should be worrying about when you're sewing is driving a straight line from this end to this end. Okay? So you've got 4 pins per piece. You got 2 here, 1 here, and 1 here. So we're going to do that for each block. Lay it aside. Get your next one. Remember, these two need to be opposite each other. Never do it like this. Never, never, never. or you'll be learning what the seam ripper is all about. Okay, I've lined this seam up with that seam. I hold it in place, pin it again. And a lot of times I'll double check, make sure they didn't move. You can see they're still right there beside each other. They're nested. They're nesting. Then we put these pieces, make sure they're correctly lined up. Make sure these two pieces are correctly lined up. If you can do this and sew a straight line, you're going to have the most beautiful quilt. You only have to pin the one side where you're sewing. Don't worry about the other side. And I stabbed myself. I'm bleeding. I've got to go take care of that so I don't get blood on the quilt. Don't mistakenly put two identicals together either. Pink and blue, these two. And you need to make sure they're lined up. Just a little bit off can throw your whole quilt off, believe it or not. Ask how I know. I've done it a few times. Like I said, I've been doing this 20 years. I think I've made every mistake that you can make. There's going to be beautiful. See, these two tie these two pieces together really nicely because the blues and then the pinks and the blues, it really ties them all four together. I would love to see the colors you're working with. I love fabric. I love to see the ideas that other people have. You know, I've never tried posting images and comments. Let me know. Let somebody tell me if you can do that or not. Somebody try it for me. See if you're allowed to post images in the comment section. I'd love to know. Now I keep saying they're nested. See the seams. This seam is folded here, and this are ironed, and this one is this way. If you feel them, they nest together really nicely. That's what it means by nesting. You nest your seams together. Now my fabric is non-directional. Some fabrics are directional. I pray that this being your first quilt, you did not get directional fabric, because I have not shown you how to work with directional fabric. I'll have to do a video on it. Maybe I'll make a quilt with directional fabric. So your best bet is to get fabric that is non-directional, that doesn't matter. There's not an upside down or a right side or anything like that. Like these, there's no direction to it. In this fabric, there's no direction to it. Or the blue. I would do that for your first quilt or two and get non-directional. I've had some students get directional fabric, and it was a bear trying to get it correct for them as we were sewing. Okay, now this one you notice is just a little off. This is a tiny, tiny bit, and we're going to sew along the edge of my foot, so my seam will be right here. So this will not affect it at all. Now, if it was larger than that, it could, but that little bit of an error, the seam allowance will take care of that. So don't worry about it if your blocks aren't quite even with each other. Isn't quilting relaxing? It's so peaceful. I love it. I was bit by the quilting bug, and I'm sure most of you will be too. Many of my students were bit by the quilting bug or the sewing bug, depending on which class they took. I've actually had a few students take up selling their items at craft fairs. I've had at least one student quit her job and is sewing full time, which I think is just awesome. I would love to hear your stories, where you're coming from in your sewing history. If this is your first time or if you're trying to take it up again. If you need quilting supplies and you don't have what I have and you want them, everything I use is in my Amazon store, which is linked below. You can go there and find your favorite supplies. I do make a slight commission off of it. It does not raise your prices at all, but it does help me. It buys me a cup of coffee or something. Okay, that's our last one. Okay, that's our stack. Now we're going to sew them. I'll see you at the sewing machine. Okay, before we get started, check your bobbin. Make sure you got enough for today's sewing. Check your thread. Make sure you have enough for what you're doing today. Turn your sewing machine on. Make sure everything's working. We're going to chain piece these just like we did last time. Make sure your pin cushion is handy because you're going to be putting pins in it. Okay, so you start, you line the corners up. Remember, your hands are the steering wheel. Fingers here, hand here. Remember, line the fabric up, go forward 3, go back 3, go forward and back 3. Okay, so we're just going to go forward, keeping a straight line. Okay, there's a pin right here. See it? Do not run over it. If you run over your pins, you risk bending your pin, you risk breaking your pin, you risk jamming your machine. It's not worth the risk. Always, always remove the pins before you get to them. Do not run over them. That's very, very important. Ask me how I know. I've had them break on me. I've had them jam up my machine. I had one needle break and hit me in the face. I learned pretty quick, you do not sew over your needles. If you learn anything from me, learn that. Do not sew over your pins. Can you see what I'm doing? Is my fingers in the way? No? Okay. That loud noise you heard was my fabric going over the hump where all of our fabric is joined together. That's normal. At the end of your fabric, you go backwards 3 and forwards 3. That locks your stitches so they don't come undone. Remember to line your fabric up with the edge of your foot. Use your hands to guide your fabric. Practice driving a straight line, ladies. That's so important. Even if you've got to practice over and over on scrap fabric, do it. You need to learn to do a straight line. It'll make the rest of your sewing so much nicer. And we're doing the chain stitching. As you can see, it's piling up back here. That's good. That saves you from having to constantly pulling thread, realigning thread, possibly losing your bobbin thread or your top thread. It saves a lot of time and it saves your thread. You're not wasting as much. In this day and age, you don't want to waste anything. I love that there's so many people interested in beginning to sew, to pick up what our mothers and grandmothers did when we were children. It blesses me. It really, really blesses me. And I really love to see all of you starting. With the way the economy is and the way our world is right now, who knows what's going to happen, you know? We can hardly afford food, let alone buy clothes or our own quilts. We may end up having to do like our grandparents and make quilts from clothes that we no longer use. And I actually do that. And I'll teach you guys how to do that. Not only do I use sheets for my quilting fabric, I also use clothing. And I'll make a blanket out of clothing one day and show you what I mean. It'll really open your eyes. And when you go to the thrift store after I show you, you'll look at the thrift store as nothing more than a great big clothing store. I mean, not clothing store, great big fabric store. Everything has potential. Everything is a possibility. It's so exciting to walk into a thrift store or a yard sale, especially if you get a really good yard sale and everything is not very expensive. It's funny, the lady who taught me how to quilt, and I'm doing my chain piecing here, she said it was a secret. She said, don't tell anybody. Well, golly gee, I kept it a secret for 4 or 5 years. And then I was reading a quilting magazine, and they were talking about chain piecing. And I was like, what the heck? It wasn't a secret. I don't know why people do that. They say something is secret, don't tell anybody. When it's not really a secret, everybody already knows. So chain piecing isn't something I invented, but it is very helpful and saves a lot of time, saves a lot of thread. Last piece. Okay, now we cut these apart where we sewed them. Take out our pins. Lay it aside. And do that. Okay, now we've got them all cut apart. Now I'll meet you back at the ironing board. We have to iron again. Okay, now we brought it to the ironing board. We open it up. We begin with it closed. Put your iron on it. Open it up slowly and let your iron do its work. That's what it'll look like on the back side. See how nicely these came together? I hope yours came together as a nice point too. We need to do this with all 12 of them. Start out with it laying flat with it just partially open. Aren't they beautiful? Now see how this wanted to crease? So I pull it open a little bit more and iron that crease out that tried to form right there. Lay these aside. Start again. When I first started, this didn't happen in my first quilt. If yours looks as good as that, I am impressed. It is kind of hard when you first start to get this to look right, but with a little bit of practice, it'll start looking perfect. And if it's not perfect, it's okay. This is your first quilt. One day I'll bring my first quilt up here. It's a doggy bed right now. That's where it was relegated to because it was a nightmare. I didn't know to square blocks up because the person who was teaching me left me and went to Florida. So I was on my own. I had no instructor. So, and I couldn't wait for her to come back. So, even though my husband was like, no, wait for her, I didn't. And I put my quilt together without squaring up the blocks. It did not come out pretty. Now, see, that one didn't come out quite right, but it's okay. We will get it fixed when we square up the blocks. We'll fix that. It'll still be imperfect there, but the block will be the correct size. That's what I mean. It's okay. There's things you could do to fix them. It doesn't mean your whole quilt is ruined. I really love this shiny fabric. It really, really highlights the quilt. I'm excited to see what it's going to look like when it's all done. I would love to see your blocks. Send me a picture of the center of your first 4 blocks put together. I'd love to see how you're doing. Love to see how you're piecing them together. Okay, when we get this done, this is the last one. That is the end of today's quilt lesson, and we'll pick up in the next lesson. The next lesson is squaring the blocks, which is very important. You cannot put the quilt together until you square the blocks. Okay, so we've got all of them ironed. They look beautiful. So I'm really proud of you for coming along with this journey. I'm really proud of the progress you've made. If you've gotten this far, you're going to make it. You're going to make it. So let me know how far you're getting. Let me know if you're following along. I would love to see your fabric pieces. Love to see your blocks. So God bless, and I will see you in lesson 4. in just a few minutes for many of you.